niggas stay free. Made a few mistakes, but this ain't where I wanna be. Before I'm judged by 12, put a 12 on my feet. Told my niggas I need you. Stay up, I know these times ain't true. Real life was
Since
free.
the lad I was cunning, just got a pad out in London. I keep stacking my money, I need a ladder by summer. 8K shots, niggas ducking straight shots. Been a top dog, that's before the K dots. Cracking in 06, immaculate showmanship. Talking like you Mitch, disastrous on the strip. Holding on your bitch, could've never sold you a brick. With them people, you never been on the list.
Welcome back to the Coliseum of Fantasy Knowledge. This is the IDP Fantasy Empire. I really like that song, I'm not gonna lie to you, because What's Free is the same beat as What's Beef, and that's like one of my favorite Biggie Small songs.
And they talk about the 12.
Exactly. All right, so this is what now? Week 13?
13 going into the playoffs.
God, man. We're almost done with the season, man. We're almost on to off-season scouting at this point. Getting ready for all the bowl games. You know, the best 4 teams are in the playoffs. Getting ready for that. That's December 29th. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to work that day because that's also the John Jones fight. So I'm probably going to have a very busy weekend of watching football. And if you hear a crunching sound, that is Buck snacking in the background.
Hey, it's 12-12 right now. All about those 12s.
All about the 12s. All right. So starting out, I'm going to go over a little bit of injury news and whatnot. The Broncos are expected to sign Jamar Taylor, and that's going to help out because Chris Harris is nursing a fractured tibia now. Apparently, everyone's breaking their legs this year. Another Redskin quarterback went down, Colt McCoy did. So apparently, it's just brittle season. No one's drinking milk no more. Seahawks are going to act. That's so true. Seahawks activated weak side linebacker Michael Kendricks from the reserve/suspended list. Let's see. I guess that one's scouting news. That's not really important. Other than that, we just had guys leave games in concussion protocol. We don't know about Ogunjobi. We don't know what's going on with him. I heard it was a biceps injury, but I haven't heard anything since then. I know he went out for the rest of the game versus the Texans. But other than that, honestly, there wasn't a lot of injuries on the defensive side this week. I think most of them came on the offense, but I think everyone's kind of clicking. I noticed this week there's a lot more defensive touchdowns. Mm-hmm. I think we're hitting that streak where defenses are really starting to know offenses, and you're seeing a lot of rematches,
right.
Especially divisionally, and I think that's where a lot of those came from this week. At least in my games, that's where most of them came from. So
same.
I think the one that I kind of expected defensive touchdowns were the Bears and Giants, but that ended up being the opposite team getting the touchdowns that I thought was going to happen.
Exactly. Paul, I don't know about you, but I had a lot of teams that I don't normally cover this week. You too?
I think I had about the same, I thought.
Really?
Honestly, they all kind of blend together at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only one I haven't watched a bunch of is the Dolphins, and so I watched another one of theirs.
Just off the cuff, anything that stuck out?
Out of my whole week?
No, out of the Dolphins game.
Oh, the Dolphins game? I don't know, having probably like 50,000 penalties. I hate hockey league. Again, man, and I'm telling you, all right, condensed form is 36 minutes. It probably should have been 32. There's at least 4 minutes of them, and they only show them for about 3 seconds.
I had a couple
there
of
were
games.
So many penalties, man.
Mine was the Broncos game. That game went on forever just because penalties and kickoffs.
Penalties and kickoffs, yep. I wish there was a thing they could adjunct where they could just take that off there. And then just boop.
But you don't want to know about the 5th linebacker on the team making a tackle?
Yeah.
Or the 3rd tight end?
Right. Yeah, I know. It's super, super, super intense here.
What are your strategies going into the playoffs? Stick with your guys?
Try to win.
Exactly. But you playing your studs in like a mixed matchup?
Yeah, and I'll see who's playing what. At this time, I'm kind of looking at playoff teams and who may rest. But, I mean, the only good thing is right now is I'll probably have my one linebacker that I relied on last year coming back now. Mm-hmm. And I had him on the bench this week because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. He goes off for 32. Didn't need the points. Yep. But now I'm like, well, I got him, and maybe Vigil comes back next week. I may finally have linebackers I can swoop back into my lineup and rest some of these D-backs that are hurt.
Right.
At least on my side of the ball. On the other one, my offense is clicking, so I can't say much about my offense. I'm surprised because I've never had a good offense before. So it's kind of like I'm playing with fire. You know, this week I chose Brandon Cooks over Keenan Allen. That was a mistake. But, you know, again, I didn't necessarily need the points. It just kind of happened that way.
Right.
My strategy for the playoff is I try to see who my opponent's going to play and who I can try to match. I probably study a little bit more than I do in the regular season. Regular season, I just set my lineups for who I like.
You ever get in your head?
Nah, because if I ever get tied up in my head, I just flip a coin and go with the coin. And then if I don't like it, I'll flip it again.
Yeah.
And then like 2 hours later, I may decide. I don't know. But I like bouncing it off. Honestly, I like bouncing off people who just know the players, don't care about fantasy, and just bouncing off a player who they like more.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's crazy. My mom does the same thing. She's actually pretty good in fantasy football this year. You know, I did nudge her and told her to draft Philip Lindsay, and she had McCaffrey and Lindsay this week and destroyed. You know,
Crazy.
Sometimes it just you gotta listen to the sun every once in a while. But she drafted a good team, man. I can't lie. My mom's coming along in the draft game. You know, she picks people she likes now, and she also picks people that she wants to do bad. Usually her quarterbacks, whoever she chooses, gets hurt. So she always tries to take a quarterback now that she doesn't like. She's like, well, if I got the curse, I might as well use it.
One thing I like to do is if I'm picking up waiver wire guys, I like to look for that trend. I like to grab those guys that are getting hot, usually on a 2-game slide and a favorable matchup. So if you're playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, you're going to want that guy that's been hot the past 2 weeks. Go ahead and fire him up in the run game and tackle Fournette.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are a couple guys, you know, I didn't know this week if I was going to have any, but I have 2 or 3 guys that I would seriously consider maybe possibly getting. So that's just kind of where I'm at this week. So I'll start off with the first game. I'm going to start with the Panthers at the Buccaneers. A game which actually had a lot of intrigue because the Panthers are now on that slide, and I kind of want to see what the Bucs were going to do with literally almost zero D-backs, but it seemed to pay off for them. All right, for the Bucs, they had David go 12 for 10, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss on pass defense. Whitehead going 7 for 5. Elliott going 4 for 4, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass defense, and 1 INT. Early on, Minter comes through the C-gap for a sack. Didn't really expect him to be that well in blitz packages, but he didn't do too bad when no one touched him. Adams gets a deflection interception. Adams is a guy who they actually had on their practice squad early in the season. He played 1 game, then got bumped down to practice squad and has been living there. He's a second-year safety. He showed up in this game because he ends up with 3 picks by the end of the game. Stretching the play to the hash marks is really making the Bucs backpedal on defense. I felt like this is what the Carolina Panthers do. They do a lot of dump-offs. And I saw a ton of dump-offs this week. I don't know if it was just me, but God, I had a lot of games that are just dumping. Just dumping outside and dumping screens. Especially the Lions game, one I'll get to later. They were doing that all the time. I think it's honestly just to try to, if there's a pass rush coming, they're trying to just read the pass rush at this point. David comes through untouched and unseen on a sack from the blind side of Cam Newton. Surprised it wasn't a forced fumble, to be completely honest. Elliott with a pick. The play before, Harris made a really great diving pass breakup that saved a touchdown in the back of the end zone. I love it when a guy just goes out and gives everything for that 1 pass defense. Very, very nice. I'm very surprised how well the secondary is playing, despite 3 of them had started a year on the practice squad. So they're bringing up guys because they're just getting banged up, and they surprisingly played very well against the Panthers. Adams gets another pick. Again, he finished with 3. Honestly, at one point I thought Adams was a wide receiver for the Panthers. I just thought he was wearing the wrong uniform. It seemed like Cam was always finding him when he was open. The Bucs' pass rush was helping cement the lead that they got late in the game. And JPP gets another sack. He just keeps turning and burning enough to get a sack every game. I think he only had 1 game where he didn't have a sack. So, pretty good this year. The Bucs are going to be playing at home again against the Saints. I don't want to jump on the Adams bandwagon, but it's an intriguing look if you have a deeper roster, especially going into playoffs. I wouldn't be like, oh, go get Adams for sure. Like, he's definitely the best player you're ever going to have. But he's definitely a kid who I may take a risk on if I have the roster room.
Are you going to feel comfortable starting him?
Versus the Saints, yeah. Okay. Because they're going to spread that ball out. There's going to be a lot of opportunities in the back half of that defense to get tackles. So if he can show up and get tackles, I don't think he's going to return or get 3 picks, but he could easily put on tackles against a high-powered offense like that. All right, for the Panthers, you had Davis going 8 for 5, 1 tackle for loss. Munnerlin going 7 for 7, 1 pass breakup, and Jackson 6 for 6. So apparently the injury last week didn't keep him out this week. He was playing really good. He did get some unfair shakes, in my opinion, but it is what it is. The Panthers can't keep the Bucs out on the very first drive of the game. They actually get a long touchdown drive to start. No one is honestly jumping off the page for the Panthers for me in the first half. Surprisingly, usually someone pops off, but didn't really see anything out of the norm. Honestly, I think there was a really bad pass interference call on Dante Jackson later in the game. The wide receiver was falling too, and he was falling, and he put a hand on his shoulder, not to disrupt the pass, but just because they were both falling, he got called for pass interference in the end zone. Did not agree with that call, did not like that one at all. Again, the refs try to do their best, but I think some of them really do suck at their jobs. Poe is getting held and still runs into Winston. He should have gotten full credit for the sack. The fact he got a half sack is a discredit to him. Luke was reading the pass and gets pass breakups over the middle. And also he was in on a couple tackles for loss at this point. But he's not really helping getting sacks in this game. He's just kind of being there. Sometimes we've seen him turn the tides of game, like a Bobby Wagner did in the Seattle game this week. So sometimes we see that, sometimes we don't with him. Jackson does not look slowed by last week's injury. He's really forming into a great way of playing the edge. He kind of sinks back and then leans forward, and then he's able to take off from the back pedal. I think it's one of those things that you see the little nuances in a player, and you start to like the way they're doing it. Their next game is going to be at the Browns. I think the Browns are still going to try to form a pass game. It's really going to depend on the weather. So watch the weather in Cleveland. If it goes to where it's a little bit colder, a little bit snowier, I guarantee you Nick Chubb's probably going to be getting a lot more carries. But most of these guys that I would go out and get are already got. So I'd just stick with who you have on the Panthers side.
That's all you got?
Yep.
I've got the Ravens and the Falcons. For the Ravens, Smith goes 6 of 6. Mosley goes 4 of 5. Carr goes 4 of 4. Clark goes 3 of 4. Suggs gets a sack. Onwuasor gets a sack. Smith gets a sack. There were no interceptions for the Ravens. Going into the fourth quarter, though, the Ravens allowed 100 total yards. That's
wow.
Crazy, right?
That is crazy. And they're in Atlanta, too, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
Suggs looks very disruptive the entire first half in the pass and the rush defense. He ends up chasing down Ryan from the opposite side of the field to trip him. Ryan does get the ball off. He does not get the sack. Jimmy Smith is repeatedly picked on this game. That's one thing I did notice. They had Marlon Humphrey on Calvin Ridley, and Jimmy Smith was on Julio Jones. That's one of the reasons why. Jimmy Smith, a better tackler than a shutdown corner. Not really sure why they went ahead and did this. I'm not really familiar with Clark, but he was top 4 this week, and I thought he played all right. He's at the safety position.
Oh.
Marlon Humphrey is finally playing consistent shutdown corner. This is one of his problems in years past. He's in his third year now?
Yeah, I think it's third year.
And then Tavon Moore. Kenny Moore and Tavon Moore.
Sounds right.
Gets a fumble recovery from an Onwuasor forced fumble. Next week they're at the Chiefs, and I'm going to be watching out for Clark. I don't necessarily want to play him, but he may be that dynasty ad that you grab. We always talk about it, and we kind of saw on the offensive side of the ball where a guy like David Johnson goes off, a guy that comes out of nowhere. For the Falcons, Jones, like Paul mentioned, went 13 of 15 and ends up getting a sack. Olakun went 6 of 9. Campbell went 5 of 6. Niesman went 5 of 6. Jarrett went 4 of 6 with a sack. There were no other sacks and no interceptions. Tukwitski McKinley, how do you say his name?
Who?
Tack. What's his real name?
McKinley?
Taquis? I don't know.
Takwiski?
Something like that. Anyways.
Maybe I'm thinking Takwiski Tart.
I think so.
I'm thinking of.
He ends up forcing a fumble, and Beasley gets a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Jones looks back to normal on the field. All is well. And continue to fire him up next week versus the Packers. Campbell and Olakun are splitting snaps, it appears, on third downs. Richards is flashing in the box, but he's not a large tackle number guy. Niesman had a really good game at the safety position. Playing linebacker position some, he's dropping down into the box. Looks to have taken over for Khalil Ishmael. You remember whenever they tried playing him as a safety in the linebacker position?
Yeah.
Playing that nickel, sometimes dime. He was used to cover running backs, tight ends, and the slot, and I really enjoyed watching him this game. He's one of those guys, if you have that spot available in your Dynasty League, go ahead and pick him up. I think that he keeps the spot, whereas DeMonte Casey loses his spot to Keanu O'Neal next year. Sonat is shredding the offensive line, and he's keeping full extension frequently. This is one thing that we saw from him coming out of college, and I was really impressed. This is the first time I've seen him as a Falcon. Next week they are at the Packers. Again, Niesman will eat the Packers. You're up, Paul.
Had to cleanse my palate. All right. My next game is going to be the Bills at the Dolphins. First off, I want to say that I hate any hockey league. I hate them. I'm telling you, this game could have been so much shorter, and I don't know how they've called so many penalties. Honestly, I just don't.
You think they're looking for him?
I think so. I think they're just like, I don't know if they get paid on a penalty cap, if they're like cops and they got to get their quotas. But God, they are literally the fishing and grading crew that has the most penalty calls. And if they win this, if they go into the playoffs and have to do a playoff game, I will cry. It was just, I hate it. All right. So again, Bills Dolphins divisional lineup. I actually liked this game more than I thought by the time I got done. Surprisingly, usually the AFC East matchups don't intrigue me at all. They just haven't for quite a long time. So let's go. Who do I want to start with? Let's start with the Dolphins. You had Alonzo going 11 for 8, 1 tackle for loss. McMillan 8 for 6, 2 tackles for loss. Jones 7 for 6, and Howard goes 4 for 3, 2 pass defenses, 2 INTs. I just threw him in there on the fourth one because I felt like that was important. Fitz early on gets a near pick. I really saw him working all over the field today. I was surprised his tackle numbers weren't high when I went after I watched the game and looked at the stats. I'm surprised they weren't a little bit higher. But to be fair, the tackle numbers were low after the top 3. So yeah, I think he was number 5, I believe. Dolphins were penetrating all game long, but just not getting Allen down. If they would have gotten to him every time they penetrated, they would have had about 9 sacks this game, just from those certain plays. Early on, McCoy was getting smothered in the backfield. Like, he was the steak, and he was just laying on the ground, and they were just throwing on some onions. They were throwing on some mushrooms, throwing on a little bit of butter, a little bit of herb butter. They were just smothering McCoy. Just smothering. Yeah, I'm hungry. But just smothering him. Allen continues to avoid pressure late into the second half. Howard gets his first pick on a halftime Hail Mary. Later, Howard undercuts a wide receiver on a deep play for an INT. Basically, he just read that pass the whole way and just undercut it on a long slant. Allen actually outran Kiko on a play. Yeah, I was surprised. Quinn gets a late forced fumble, and that really kind of helps almost wrap up the game, even though Clay can't catch an open fourth down throw to win the game. It is what it is. Their next game is going to be again at home versus New England. With them coming in, honestly, there's no one that I'm clamoring for to help me in the playoff push off the Dolphins. I'm assuming it's still going to be Alonzo, but again, these tackle numbers aren't high in solos. The Dolphins seem to stat out a lot more assists than they do solos. So I'm not super excited about anyone in particular off of this one. For the Bills, you had Milano going 8 for 4, 2 tackles for loss. Poyer 5 for 3, and Hyde 4 for 3, 1 pass defense, 1 INT. The Bills allow a touchdown on the first drive, and that broke the longest active streak of not allowing a touchdown on the first drive of the season. Didn't even know the Bills were in that contention, so that's pretty cool. Parker gets a touchdown over Hyde. He just basically undercut Hyde, who was in prime position to get another pick. Hughes is bull rushing so well off the edge. I noticed him doing a lot of different maneuvers, and I really enjoyed watching it the whole time.
Did he get home?
I think got home once. But he was in there, like, even on the run plays, he was in there.
That's what I've seen from him all year. He's always been right there, but never really getting those tackles.
Mm-hmm. Edmonds with a pass breakup at the line. I like that because I haven't really seen that from him this year in the Bills games that I've watched. After Howard gets a pick, the next play, Hyde picks off a deep pass. So it was kind of like the Colts game last week where they went pick, just turn over. Exactly what happened in that one. Thought that was pretty funny. Phillips gets a gimme tackle for loss, but then gets flagged for a personal foul for pushing the player's legs. His leg kind of shot up in the air, and he just pushed it over. To me, that's ticky-tack, but it's whatever. Milano gets a tackle for loss later. The reason I put that one in there is it was actually a really good move on him. He went in at the center and then kind of pulled him and then cut around and got that tackle for loss on the running back. The craziest thing about this game, not even the game, it was after the game. Did you hear about what happened after the game?
Mm-mm.
Apparently, Hughes went after one of the officials. It was like yelling at him.
What?
All right. And the ref that he was yelling at is Roy Ellison. All right. And if you don't know who Roy Ellison is, a couple years ago, or I think it was last year or a couple years before, he was suspended a game by the NFL. An official, yeah. Because Trent Williams claimed that he called him a garbage ass mother bleep. All right. So he has a history here. Apparently, Hughes is claiming that he called him the N-word.
Wow.
Yeah.
White guy?
Yeah. And so Hughes was like, you called me this, and he there's a video of it. Like, he's like, you called me this. He's like, I'm gonna find you. He's like, I'm gonna find you after this. And he was heated. But it was funny when they interviewed him in the locker room. It was like someone took that Men in Black little memory eraser and hit it, because they were like, well, what happened with you and the ref? He's like, what happened? What do you mean what happened? He's like, something happened? He's like, do you have video? And he's like, well, I have video of it. He's like, I'd like to see that. I'd like to know what happened. Like, it was so funny. I was dying when I was watching that interview. But that was like the craziest thing about that game was just after the game. It's just crazy that I couldn't remember. I didn't know who he's yelling at. I thought maybe he's yelling at Hockley for throwing so many damn flags. I'd have been okay with that. Like, you suck just like your dad sucks. We'd all been happy. But I just thought it was an interesting little tidbit to throw in at the end of this one. Bills' next game is going to be home versus the Jets. I'm hoping this game is going to be a cold game. I actually want the Jets to win because I don't want Bulls to get fired, even though I think it's probably going to happen because they're on a 6-game losing streak after this week. So for the Bills players in particular, I do think most of the guys you are going to want are taken. Maybe Hyde and Poyer out there or a mixture of the two. Hyde seems to play better when it gets colder. So if they are playing in Buffalo and it's going to be cold, he has a little bit of an uptake for me, just because I've seen him do it for several years in a row where he's gotten you points in December. So that might be a guy you might want to take a little bit of a risk on. It just depends on your league size and how you value your team.
All right. I have the Bears versus the Giants game that I call the game of the year.
I watched that whole game too.
Do you love it?
I watched the whole one. It was so good, man.
It was.
And I hate the Bears, so I was super happy with the outcome.
For the Bears, Trevathan went 8 of 10. Smith went 7 of 10. Hicks went 6 of 6. Got a sack, a pass breakup, and a rush touchdown. It's nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson went 4 of 6 with a pass breakup. Matt got a sack, Floyd got a sack, and Fuller got a pick. This has to be the greatest game of the year, hands down. There's no game. Like, at the end of the game, the Bears are down 10 with 1:47 left. They kick a field goal with 1:13 left. They get the onside because Odell Beckham tried to swipe it out.
Well, I mean, you use the word "tried" very loosely here.
He did. He wasn't actively doing it.
Why would you put him out there? Like, you need big guys with strong hands.
I'd rather put Sterling Shepard out there.
Yeah,
because I know he's going to go up for that.
He's
ball.
more scrappy.
Yeah,
exactly.
Then again, Odell Beckham is scrappy. He's more of a catch the ball over you type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely. And then they scored a touchdown on the last play of regulation to cause overtime. They ended up losing that game. Deep pass, and we'll talk about it with the Giants.
Okay.
Fuller ends up jumping under Odell, and he gets an interception, a pick 6 this year, or 6 interceptions this year, which makes him tied for third. The defense has 30 turnovers to this point. Hicks gets a rushing touchdown on the goal line, like I said earlier. He almost had a pick that fell right out of his hands. Later on, he blocks a field goal as well. Hicks went off. Amos is shutting down yards after catch, and he's playing extremely well this game. We've seen the safety play continue to be the existence of the defensive line. You know, they keep rushing that passer. You're going to have better play out of your safeties.
Yeah.
Eddie Jackson is in on offensive snaps. Did you notice that? They actually called...
Oh, yeah. I did. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, they actually called him because he went illegal motion, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then the next play, they ran the same exact play. He did the same motion.
Mm-hmm.
Giants took Hernandez from the left guard position and pulled him to the right guard spot. where the right tackle spot. Where the right tackle was lined up, they had a tight end, and they had that tight end roll to the left on a drag route, and they ended up throwing it to that tight end. They're trying to get creative. They're trying to save Eli and keep him upright. But for the Bears, I have nobody. They're playing the Rams next week, and anybody that should be owned is already owned.
I'm so glad they're going to lose 2 games in a row. Makes me happy.
Who knows?
It's my Christmas.
Who knows? For the Giants, Ogletree goes 5 of 10, 2 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, and a touchdown.
Tutty.
Webb goes 9 of 9 with a pass breakup. Haley goes 8 of 8. Tomlinson goes 4 of 7. Hill gets 3 sacks. BJ Hill, yes, that's right. And Olivier Vernon gets 2 sacks.
Oh my God, he got 3. Oh my God, hold on.
Ogletree intercepts the ball in the second play for a pick 6. He would not go down. We saw this again, against the Jets? Was it against the Jets?
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
He ends up lurking Cohen. I always want to call him Conan. With a one-handed pick.
The Barbarian.
It was beautiful. Edwards is wreaking havoc on the Bears' offensive line. He's not really contributing to the stat sheet, but he's one of those players, just like Jerry Hughes, that we expect to go off. 22 points?
Oh, my God.
How many points do you get?
23 points. You know where he's at? My taxi squad. You know how many points I got from my defensive end? 1.
Sounds about right. Hey, we feel it, guys. We do it too. Janoris Jenkins is playing his best football. He looks like a shutdown corner this week, and he's playing fired up. He ends up shadowboxing the cameraman after he tips the ball out of bounds in the end zone. He does end up making the game-winning tip in overtime to force turnover on downs. Riley drops a gimme interception that's thrown right to him. He's making a lot of saving tackles this game. Chandler gets a fumble recovery from Webb's forced fumble, and Chandler is getting a lot of playing time in the nickel, not necessarily contributing to the stat sheet, but he's one of those guys that I say, hey, you need to watch him. Vernon also gets a forced fumble as well. Next week, they're versus the Redskins. The Redskins have a porous offensive line. It wouldn't be a bad play to play Hill next week. Haley is feeding. He continues to play in the nickel. He's one of those guys that has shown up on my radar, and I'm going to continue to watch him in a deep dynasty league.
Sorry, I'm bringing up BJ Hill on my main roster right now. I had to do it. And I just realized that Mike Daniels is now in IR, so I'm like, cool, I'm down to like 2 DNs now. Thanks, Buck. I appreciate your stats, because that helped me out. All right, my next game is going to be the Browns at the Texans. I keep doing this Texas accent. Freaking Red Dead Redemption, man. It's just got me in all sorts of ways with these accents. No. I mean, I would, but I mean...
Hit up the old spittoon.
I have been wanting a lot of whiskey lately. All right.
Got to keep that dead eye.
Exactly. So, first team up is going to be the Texans. You had Tyrann Mathieu going 6 for 5, 1 pass defense. Colvin, 5 for 4, and a fumble recovery. And then you have Jackson going 4 for 4. Cunningham with a pass breakup over the middle. Cunningham reaches back and snags a pick later and takes it to the house. Another defensive touchdown that I had this week was the Texans. Could not think of that earlier when we were talking about it. The next Browns drive, Baker throws another pick to Joseph. Hall gets a pick off Baker in the end zone later on in the game. Callaway makes a great catch, but then Reed strips him by the goal line. And this was a long, deep pass play. Callaway's finally getting open. Like, we're seeing why he was considered like AB Jr. coming out of Florida, even though he's kind of a crappy person. But anyway, he gets stripped, and then Colvin recovers it, saves a touchdown. And honestly, I think if the Browns would have scored, it may have been a closer game than it really was. With the game pretty much over, you see the Texans seemingly whiffing on tackles. I don't know why they were tackling worse as the game was kind of in hand. I don't know. I can't explain that one to you. Their next game is going to be versus the Colts. Guy who I'm really starting to see more and more of, besides Cunningham, is I think Bernardrick McKinney's going to have a good game next week. I really have a feeling he's going to be getting my messages about the playoffs. And he's going to be feeding off of it, and he's going to be like, Paul needs me, man. We got Deion Jones back. We're going to go. We're going to go to the ship. got to go to the championship this year and win it. So I think next week's going to be a good week. Honestly, I just like the matchup for McKinney. I think he's going to have a good week next week. Because these are all low tackle numbers, so they're going to have way more tackles next week. For the Browns, I have really short notes on the Browns today. You have Schobert going 11 for 2, so only 2 solos out of 11 tackles. Half sack, you have Randall going 8 for 7, Carey going 8 for 6, 1 pass defense. Randall was stopping Miller as basically the last line of defense. It's good to see a safety doing that. I don't care who it is, even though I don't really like him necessarily. It's good to see him. Him and Peppers are working really well together in this game. Garrett with a sack by ripping Watson the ground. Surprised he didn't get called for a horse collar. Didn't really get that one. Ogbon. God, I said it earlier and I said it. I said it just fine earlier. Now I can't say nothing. He made a bull rush into a tackle for loss. Later, he was chasing down guys in the secondary. Again, I love seeing guys on the D line chase someone down in the linebacker area to early cornerback area. I love seeing that. Peppers gets a bit of a push-off, and the tight end for the Texans scores. Surprised they didn't call it because it was close enough to definitely be considered a push-off. The Browns are playing good coverage, but they're just getting beat by great throws. Honestly, Watson is out there throwing dime pieces. So he was just doing so well out there. You can't really be mad at the secondary. I thought they actually had a really good game plan going into this one. I really wanted to see more from Peppers, but his role in this game is more covering the deep ball. So they didn't really have him on blitz that often. I think he only blitzed twice. And usually his number's 4 and 5, if not more than that. So they just didn't really want to put him in there. They wanted to keep him back to cover the weapons that the Texans have. And I got to say, man, Hopkins is a freaking monster. Mm-hmm. That dude's catching balls, getting his helmet ripped off. Like, he's just doing it all. He's like Vance Joseph, just down there having the time of his life every time he's on the field. I have said that quote so many times this week. I just forget how much I love it. I even said it at work. I'm like, I'm just sitting here having the time of my life. Their next game is going to be against the Sliding Panthers at home. Again, if it's a cold game, I'm going to defer to the other. I think Schobert will probably end up putting more solos on because Cleveland seems to stat that way. But I think it's going to be a linebacker defensive line game. I think this is going to be some runs. Depending on the weather, I think it's going to be runs.
All right, I've got the next game. It's Colts versus the Jags. It was a little bit of a letdown compared to the Giants game.
What was the final score? I didn't even see anything from this game.
I think it was 19-22 or so.
19-22?
Yeah.
Dang.
Don't quote me on that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it was something like that. For the Colts, no, it was 9-7.
What?
It was a low-scoring game. For the Colts, Walkers goes 6-9, Desir goes 7-8, Autry goes 7-7 with 3 sacks.
Nice.
Old Raider. Gathers goes 5-7. Moore goes 6-6 with a pass breakup.
Ooh, yeah.
There were no interceptions. Autry causes a forced fumble, and Walker gets a fumble recovery. Walker's drops a clear interception. How many times have we heard that in the past couple weeks?
A lot.
But he has had a couple pick sixes this week.
That final score was 6-0? Are you kidding me?
Yep.
6-0. Where was this at? Was this in Jacksonville?
In Jacksonville.
Wow.
Autry ends up getting another forced fumble later on in this game. Matthew Adams is a tank at the outside linebacker / pass rush position. He was in on limited snaps, though. There were a couple plays that were negated by defensive backs. I think that guy's flashing. Seeing the linebacking core with Leonard and Walker, it's nice to see Adams in there on the pass rush with Sheard on the other side. Kenny Moore is in on a lot of plays this week. He's flashing on the screen, not necessarily on the stat sheet. These linebackers continue to run downhill with this improved defensive line. You got Marcus Hunt, you have Sheard, and you also have Autry that are destroying things inside.
And is Autry looking better and better
as
it's gone on, man? I liked it when he came off of that injury and he's come back and he's been playing so well. Like, he's been a guy who I've really liked watching on the Colts.
Autry, Mario Williams, Khalil Mack, Bruce Irvin, Amari Cooper, all these guys are going off on other teams now. Mm-hmm. Really makes you wonder what the hell John Gruden was thinking. They're a bunch of peacocks. They had to go out and spread their wings and fly. Okay? Or chicken. Next week they're at the Texans, and Autry may be a sneaky play against the Texans. Matthew Adams looks good. Lackluster offensive line. I think this may be a lot of good opportunities for this team.
The total yards on that, the Jags had 211 yards and the Colts had 265 yards.
I'll tell you what, watching the Jags, a lot of it was dump-offs. They weren't deep balls.
That's crazy. That's like their rushing yards are just 79 to 41. That's crazy. I did not know there was a 6-0 game. I'm in shock over here.
You look shook.
Everyone else scored like 30 points this week, so I'm super confused. Like, look at the stats. You just do a quick flip. You're like, oh, that's a misprint for sure. Like, that's crazy.
For the Jaguars, Smith goes 12 of 12. Jack goes 8 of 10. Ramsey goes 6 of 6 with a pass breakup. Boye goes 5 of 5 with a pass breakup. Ngakoue, Harrison, and Campbell all get 1 sack apiece. And DJ Hayden, a former Raider, gets an interception. The Jags are doubling Eric Ebron. Ngakoue looks crazy the first half. He ends up getting a forced fumble and a sack, but it got negated. He is destroying Anthony Costanzo and making tackles and run support. He's consistently in luck space. He makes a touchdown-saving dive tackle on the goal line, and he was crickets in the second half.
Crickets.
Telvin Smith causes a forced fumble, and Jack recovers it. Jack is playing man on Ebron most of the game, so expect that in weeks to come. We kind of saw them try to use Telvin in the previous weeks, and that was not working out. Harrison drops a pick. We're seeing a lot more of him instead of Gibson. He looks amazing out there, and he gets a stock blitz from the weak side, and he rides Luck to the ground. Harrison is one of those guys that is going to continue to eat, especially if he gets more playing time. It seemed like he was getting about 80% of the snaps this week. Next week they're at the Titans, and I'm going to pick up Harrison as a stash for my Dynasty Leagues where I can.
Just real quick, I want to interject the Monday night, just because we're getting near playoffs. I want to keep everyone updated on what's going on. For the Redskins, this is the Monday night. I'm just going to give you the stats. You had Zach Brown going 8 for 9 or 9 for 8 if you go total solo. 2 tackles for loss. You had Fabian Moreau show up, and he went 9 for 7. Haha went 7 for 7. Stroman goes 7 for 6. That was a guy who I was like, well, he's coming on strong late. I didn't think he was going to have this way against the Eagles. They had 63 total tackles, all right? Just remember that. As a team, 73 total tackles. I'm not excluding special teams. The Eagles had 39 total tackles.
Damn.
They were not on the field very much. Like their top scorer was, or their top tackler was Douglas, went 7 for 6, 1 tackle for loss. Their second tackler went 3 for 3.
Wow.
And that was Brandon Graham with a 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. And then Fletcher Cox had 3 for 3, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. That's crazy. I thought I was misreading that. I reloaded the page like 6 times to make sure I was not wrong. That's crazy. Just wanted to give you a Monday night update. Eagles did win that game. All right, my next game from Sunday was the Rams at the Lions. This game was a little bit better than I thought, honestly. I think the final score is misleading for how close this game actually was score-wise until the last 2 minutes. So I just want to throw that out there. It was a lot closer. It was 16-13 in the fourth quarter. So this wasn't a blowout by any stretch of the means.
Nice.
All right, starting with the Lions, you have Diggs going 7 for 5, 2 pass defenses, 1 interception, and 2 nasty hits. You have Harrison going 7 for 3, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 recovery. And you have Ford, a guy who I said last week I would probably pick up, go 6 for 6. The Ford kid, man, he's really popping. This is one of the guys I was talking about that I would mention. He's really popping off on the screen for me. I think teams are still trying to pass at him, but he's also making plays. You know, I don't want to undersell what he's doing. I think it's the whole Ford thing is really helping him out, but it's by far way better. Snacks early on in this game is always getting his hands on the arm and rusher. He's always hitting him here, grabbing him here. He's always making contact with the running back. And that's just something you see every week. And I'm just enamored with the guy, man. I love watching him play. Mm-hmm. I just really do. I think if you're a defensive lineman in high school and college and you want to be that D line, that nose tackle, watch him and see how he does it. He has different techniques that are subtle. Like he does the arm out, he does the bench press, he does a lot of different things. Then you just got to notice it. It really shows how bad Detroit was in the rushing or the run stuffing game when they have him come in, and he's been honestly a top 3 scorer almost every single week he's been there.
Yeah.
It's just I keep throwing it out there every week, but I'm right every week. He keeps being up there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Another sleeper I like for that team is Ashawn Robinson.
Yeah, and he's playing a lot better because I think Snacks is pushing him too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're working well together.
You notice much off of the African kid?
Ziggy
Ansah?
Ansah? Not a lot in this game. It wasn't one of those standout games for him. Just really wasn't. It was honestly more about the secondary and their hits. You had Robinson, who you just brought up. He was having excellent penetration. He wasn't necessarily getting the stats that would back up. Yeah, he's just penetrating right on in there. The Lions on one play missed 4 tackles near the line of scrimmage. They missed 4 tackles by the line of scrimmage. Wow. That was embarrassing. Diggs got a bad throw interception. Slay gets stiff-armed by Gurley. I like it when running backs, get the good classic stiff arm. Diggs is out there slinging hits at dudes. I feel like he just felt like he could just go out and hit anyone, didn't matter. Snacks gets a forced fumble and then recovers his own fumble. The announcer mid-game, and I just want to throw this out there, he said, McCarthy may not see another game if they don't win this Cardinals game. And that was during the Lions and Rams game. I stopped and laughed so hard. So hard. I was laughing about it.
All the Packers fan.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that later. Lions almost had 2 near picks inside the 20. I just really wish they would have connected those and may have turned the tide in this game. Gurley breaks through and dashes and then basically lays down on the 1-yard line to run the clock out. We've seen him do this 2 weeks in a row, or at least in 2 games. I don't know if he did it last week or not. Their next game is going to be at the Cardinals. With the Cardinals getting the best victory they've had in like 30 years this last week, they're going to be riding high. But for the Lions, honestly, I really like Ford. I think he's well worth a waiver pickup, and he may be one of those guys that is your sneaky help to help you win games. So I really like him. I think his play has been outstanding since he's been there. One of those rookies that I just didn't see that much of in college, and now that he's getting a chance to play, he's doing really well. All right, next up is the Rams. You have Johnson going 11 for 9. Sue made the top 3, 6 for 6. And it's crazy. I didn't even feel like he made tackles. I guess I just didn't see it down there in the pile. Joyner going 6 for 5, and of course Donald goes 5 for 5, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. Guy just does it every week, man. Doesn't matter if it's prime time or not. He's not Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack only performs in prime time. Donald shows up every time. If you're getting my hint of who I like in the defensive MVP race, if I had to choose a big man, I would choose Donald. Just on that.
Defensive MVP?
Yeah. Barron, again, is using his body to lunge at tackles, and he missed. He hit. He missed. He hit. He was kind of all over the board. He was like playing Battleship. When you're like, A5, hit. E17, miss. That's what he does when he does those body lunging tackles. I hate it. Can't stand it. The Rams are getting beat on dump-offs and screens, and they got so lucky that Stafford overthrew one because there was one guy over there, and he would have been eaten up. It would have been a touchdown. Like, clear as day touchdown. Littleton sacks Stafford untouched. Joyner gets a near pick. The Rams are looking confused in coverage. Surprised they look this confused. Hill gets an amazing interception in the back of the end zone later on in the game. Donald strips Stafford, and the Rams recover. I feel like Stafford's always one of those guys who's going to give up the ball if he gets contacted. Again, I mentioned earlier, it was only 16-13 in the fourth quarter, so this game was not a blowout. The Rams weren't dominating like it may show on the stats and the final score. But Littleton came on really late in this game. The last 6 minutes, I started seeing Littleton pop up more and more and more. So it's like he was saving himself this week for that last stretch, and it really worked. The Rams ended up picking up the win. Their next game is going to be at Chicago. Again, most of the guys are going to be owned. I think Joyner is one of those guys who's going to give you up and down, and he may get you a pick, he may not. We'll see who starts for the Bears next week. We don't know at quarterback who's going to start. I think if it's Daniels, Joyner has a good pick of getting a good chance of getting a pick. But if it's Trubisky, he's probably not see much action because he plays the left side, and Trubisky don't throw to the left, so he may just be out there in no man's land.
Word.
All right, that's it. Yep.
All right, I've got the Broncos versus the Bengals, my longest game, 46 minutes. For the Broncos, Davis goes 9 of 10, Simmons goes 7 of 9 with a pass breakup and an interception. Cravens goes 4 of 5, number 3.
Woo!
Jones goes 4 of 4, and Miller goes 1.5, Harris goes 1.5, and Chubb gets a sack.
Yeah.
The announcers would not stop talking about the shoulder hits in the NFL. Demaryius Thomas extends and reaches out for what seems like a normal catch, and he gets destroyed. Just like Sanders always appears to be getting destroyed. I don't know why. But I don't like this narrative. And if they try and take that out of the NFL, I think there are going to be a lot more people that leave the NFL and stop watching.
Well, how else are you going to tackle then?
Right.
Like, at that point, you're just putting flags on dudes.
Right. You can't touch them. You can't, like, show your
So were
dominance.
they calling penalties on it, or were the announcers just
The announcers were just trying to get a narrative.
Who's the announce team? Do you remember?
I couldn't tell you. And then Gene Steratore came in, and he was like, oh, yeah, we're trying to get rid of those. And I'm like, do not say that. Take that back.
Yeah, like, how is he supposed to tackle? Are they supposed to, like, jump up midair and tackle with their midsection? Like, are they supposed to give them, like, the hip bump, like you're on the dance floor, just boop? Like, check them out of bounds like hockey?
That's going to be illegal soon, too.
Yeah, like, come on, man.
Just play the ball.
They're making millions of dollars. Like, come on, man. It's okay to take a shoulder hit. You'll be fine.
Exactly.
Broken collarbone's a lot better than a concussion.
Word. Chris Harris does go out with a broken fibula, as Paul mentioned earlier this podcast. He is done for the season. Isaac Yiadom is his replacement. We talked about that guy in our premium podcast.
Out of BC.
If you haven't listened to our premium podcast, check them out. I believe they're, $7? $7 and you get them for a year from the date that you purchase them. You can find that on our website, idpfantasyempire.com, or go to our Podbean. You got to type in IDP Fantasy Empire. You can find us on Twitter at IDP Empire, and our Gmail is idpfantasyempire@gmail.com.
And now's a perfect time to get in because, again, we're already starting a lot of scouting stuff. So that's going to be rolling out. We'll take a little bit of time off after the season's over. But, again, we're going to start on that scouting stuff. And bowl games are a perfect time. That's why I love bowl games.
Exactly. It is 12:57.
The witching hour. I don't know. I just want to throw that out there.
Easy, Scott Hanses.
It's the witching hour.
Simmons is playing all over the field. What we warned you about the whole season. Finally getting excited for this guy. This Harris kid, he gets a pick to seal the game last week, and then he gets 1.5 sacks and multiple tackles for loss. He's proven to be a beast. I think it was Adam Gotsis that ended up going out last game. Middle of the game. He's playing nose tackle. So if you're in a nose tackle required league, I hope you're not. But
punter league.
He is definitely that guy to get. Derek Wolfe ends up leaving the game with a rib injury. Where have we heard this before? Miller uses a one-arm press on the right tackle to put him on the ground. Chubb and Miller are in on so many hurries this game. One play, Vaughn gets a strip sack, and Chubb gets the recovery. Josie Jewell also leaves the game with an injury in the second half. Sua Cravens is playing middle linebacker in the nickel, and Joseph Jones, a guy that I hadn't heard about, can play football. He's on the field often, and he's one of those guys that I'm going to be watching in weeks to come. Todd Davis is really solidifying this team in tackles. Not the guy that I really projected to be here because I expected Jewell to take over for him and Brandon Marshall to be the guy. But it looks like that he's getting the nod, and he'll continue to get the nod.
I'm glad Sua looked good. I was really going to ask you about that, too. If it wasn't in there, I was like, what would Sua do?
Yeah.
I feel like this is like he's the rose coming out of the ashes. We're starting to see a little bit come out.
Yeah.
I think the kid has great talent, man.
Let's hope there's nothing above him because he will get that concussion. Almost like a Mario brother.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Stewart drops a sure pick. Next week they're at the 49ers. This is...
The story of a girl. Wait, where are we going with this? Are we doing karaoke?
No.
Oh.
Bruh. The safety. He's a GM of the...
John Lynch?
Yeah. 49ers.
Okay.
I was going to draw this narrative. You got Sua Cravens coming in as a fresh safety, playing that big hitter, going into San Francisco, destroying George Kittle and putting him out for the season.
Okay. I need him in fantasy. Let's not go that far, okay?
No, Cravens and Joseph Jones are going to be the guys that I'm looking to get. Again, Cravens coming down in the middle linebacker spot. It puts Todd Davis on the edge where he can spy the quarterback or rush the quarterback. Also help out in zones. Joseph Jones, again, a guy under the radar that I'm going to be watching in weeks to come. Right now, I wouldn't necessarily say pick him up, but he may be a stash in Dynasty. For the Bengals, Williams, no surprise here. He leads the team again. Goes 7-9. Drake Kirkpatrick goes 5 of 5. Andrew Billings 3 of 5. Evans, 3 of 5 with a pass breakup. Hubbard with a sack and Willis with a sack.
Hey, good job, Willis.
No interceptions for the Bengals. Broncos are resetting the defensive line on the first 2 downs, each set of downs. Michael Johnson is popping in the first quarter. Other than that, we hear nothing from him. Sean Williams is making big play after big play each week. He's tied for 3rd in interceptions for the league. Drake Kirkpatrick almost got a pick. He ends up dropping it. He doesn't look it into his chest. The linebackers for this team are the downfall. They're always out of position, and the middle is wide open.
You shut your mouth. That's half my roster, bruh.
I know. That was a straight,
not anymore, but
straight attack across the bows.
Shots fired. I see how it is.
Next week they're playing the Chargers, and I am picking up no one for the Bengals.
Nick Vigil. I believe in Vigil. I believe in you, man. Still, #1 fan, man. Been rocking you since the waivers.
Christmas Vigil.
Hey, I had a way. I like that. Easter Vigil. There's a lot of vigils.
I know.
You didn't do that a lot. That's good. I'm going to have to remember that one. All right, my next game is the Chiefs.
Corny names for his team.
Yeah. Well, not for team names, but that actually ain't too bad. Because I could go like Pope Paul's Vigils. I could do that. I got that. That's a nice one. I am looking for a new team name after this season, so just saying. If anyone wants to throw some at me on Twitter, I'd be completely happy with that. So just hit me up at them. All right, so I have the Chiefs at the Raiders. We have the team that is 9-1 going. No, they're 8-2. They have the same record. They were like 9-2 and 8-2-9. I don't know. However that works out mathematically, they're the transverse of each other.
Inverse.
Inverse. Thank you. Transverse. I don't even know what that means. I don't watch Back to the Future. All right, so the Raiders, who are the home team. Yeah, they actually were the home team. There's a lot of black holes in there. You have Morrow going 7 for 7. Whitehead 7 for 7, 1 forced fumble, and Worley 5 for 4. Whitehead strips Kelsey to start the game. Honestly, the crowd is pretty into it. I was pretty into it. And honestly, I thought this was going to be a trap game for the Chiefs. You know, you got the distraction of Kareem Hunt doing Hunt things. You just got they got to basically go out and try to hope their backups play decently. I thought maybe this could be the game. The one that gets Buck back on the bandwagon, brings him back home. It's like that little beacon, like E.T. sticks out his finger with a Chiefs win. E.T. phone home. I thought that'd be Buck. He'd be like coming right back to the light. I was hoping for it, man. And it was close. It was a close game. Comparatively, it was a close game. Way more than it should have been. You have to admit, it was closer than it should have been.
The only thing bringing me back is Nick Bosa.
There it is. I told you. There it is. There was the crack. Hey, and we helped you out. We gave the Cardinals a win. So we helped move the Raiders up a spot. Just cradling them on up one spot, man. It could happen.
Giants won.
Exactly. This week was just a good week, man. I'm telling you. All right, Mahomes comes out and is basically overthrowing deep balls. That was really saving the Raiders' defense early on. Gilchrist gets beat underneath for a touchdown. Hill needs to put a stranglehold on these catches that he's missing. There we go.
That's suffocating, Paul.
I know. Reggie Nelson misses a pick, and then Kelsey ends up making the catch. Reggie Nelson has done this, I think, his whole career. He'll take big risks and hope it pays off. I mean, it's kind of what it is when you watch a Raiders game, taking a risk.
Look at the hair on this tricep.
That's so weird, bro. People can't see that, so now they're just like, what are they doing? Okay. I need to see more D-line. Like, we need more cowbell. I need more on this defensive line. Where did you go? Where is Auden Key? I need to see more of Auden Key. I don't know where they went, man.
You've been building them up all season, Paul.
I need more. I need more of the defensive line. I just needed more from this game. Oh, trust me, I was waiting when I wrote that line down for this whole thing. I do a really good impersonation of him. All right, their next game is going to be versus the Steelers. Buck's father's team versus Buck's secret closet team. So they're
Chiefs
battling each other. No, the Steelers.
Oh, okay.
Raiders play the Steelers. All right, and
next week, huh?
There's really no one from the Raiders I'm gonna pick up in this one because I feel like there's some better options somewhere else. Not a dig at the Raiders. I just think right now most people should have Whitehead, and that's the guy I would go after. The cornerbacks is really just picking one and hoping it sticks that week. It's really how it's been. For the Chefs, you have Hitchens going 10 for 5, Scandrick 9 for 8, 1 pass defense, and Fuller 8 for 7. Fuller's getting worked on the inside early on in this game. Speaks is really moving well in this game. I felt like I needed to get a quick wave. I was waiting for him to wave at me on camera. Just say hi. But it's cool. Fuller gets a forced fumble on a reach-in. It wasn't really a punch-out. It was more like he just happened to be reaching in on a tackle and popped it out. It wasn't anything special. I actually saw a little bit more of O'Daniel out on the field. Didn't make the stat numbers, but he was out there. I don't think the Chiefs needed a lot in this game from their defense. I don't know. I don't get excited watching the Chiefs defense ever. It's just a defense I'd never want to watch.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's just the players or the uniforms or the mixture of both. I've never been a huge chance to see Chiefs like, oh, I got to watch this defense. I don't mind watching Eric Berry, but other than that, I've never been excited for the linebackers. Like, their linebackers, I always think are defensive linemen.
Yeah.
And it's just weird, you know? You know how you think of some teams, like you think of Bears defense, you think linebackers.
Yeah.
You know, you think of, certain teams, you think of certain positions. With the Chiefs, I'm like, I don't know what position. Like, what position is there? That's just how I always feel when I watch them. I would like to see more pass rush. And honestly, I'm calling it now. I think they lose to the Ravens next week.
Damn.
Yeah. They will be at home versus the Ravens, but I think the Ravens come in and get that road win.
I don't think Lamar Jackson's got it.
I think he does. I don't know. I think as a total whole, I think they can beat the defense. Or I think their defense can beat Kansas City's offense. Yeah.
All right. I would love to see that slide. Shut up a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you are out there.
If you're out there. Chiefs Kingdom.
All right, we've got the Cardinals and Paul's favorite team, the Packers.
No, I'm moving teams. I'm tired of this losing, and we get rid of our coach. I'm so done.
Y'all didn't get rid of Aaron Rodgers.
Not yet.
Or Clay Matthews.
Oh, I don't care about if Clay Matthews is gone. I am not complaining. I said that 2 seasons ago, so that ship has already sailed for me.
All right.
I said we should have traded him and get Cleo Mack, but whatever.
Just like we were asked by a lot of people, who's the guy to get in Arizona? That was Gerald Hodges, 12 for 13. Bethea goes 8 of 10 with a pass breakup. Emerson, a former Raider, goes 5 of 6 with a pass breakup. Baker goes 5 of 5. Jones gets a sack and no interceptions.
You have like the biggest dictionary of former, you have like a catalog. Like, I feel like you have a wall in your house somewhere that just has former Raiders, and they're just like, you just look at it and there's like one tear. Like the Indian that is crying over recycling just rolls down your cheek whenever you're looking at the former Raider wall.
Not at all. It's more like Wolverine laying on the bed.
Yeah, look at that picture. Oh.
2012 photo. Team photo. I got people circled. There was literally nothing in the first half for the Cardinals. Rodgers is attacking the zones, and they're running up the middle for nothing. David Emerson drops a pick. He was picked up off waivers because of Ben Wickery. Ben Wickery, the hot story last week, being a garbage player, more or less, is what they were saying. Versus the Lions, I think Emerson will continue to be tested. Classic Stafford. Go ahead and pick him up because they are not throwing to Patrick P. For the Packers, Blake Martinez goes 5 of 10. Campbell goes 8 of 8.
Yeah.
Campbell?
Yeah.
You're like, who's Campbell?
He's like our fourth safety that we've tried to start now.
I love that guy. Let's get back to that. Clark goes 3 of 7 with a pass breakup.
Dude, Clark is having a monster year, man. Love
He's
that
playing
guy,
pretty
man.
well. Always top 3.
God.
Jones going 4 of 5 with a sack. Lowry gets a sack. No interceptions for the Pack.
Of course.
John Jones is on a straight sprint to Josh Rosen. Beautiful tackle and sack. Rosen just concedes it. Josh Jackson dropped a pick 6 thrown right to him.
I'll say I have not watched this game yet, so you're giving me all information. Now I'm all sad.
Tremont Williams is actually having a good game.
Well, yeah, good enough game for us to lose.
That's about all I got.
Oh, my God.
Ibrahim Moises Campbell got a forced fumble on the 30-yard line. 30-yard Rosen scamper. So, Ibrahim Campbell, kid coming out of Northwestern, ends up playing for the Cleveland Browns. A guy that was highly productive in Cleveland is one of those guys that I'm like, hey, I need a safety. I'm going to go get that guy. I will start him next week versus the Falcons. I think he's going to have a good week again. Pleasant dropped a pick that was thrown right to him.
What the hell is Pleasant? I don't even know this. God,
Anthony or Andrew Pleasant.
Cornerback?
Used to play for the Houston Texans.
God, is it safety or cornerback?
I think it's safety.
God, I don't even know how many who is our safeties that are left anymore, man. Like,
I heard one stat that 22 Packers have been hurt this season.
I'm not surprised. I've told you off air, and I'll say it on here. I hope whoever gets hired comes in and fires all the strength and conditioning coaches and gets new guys. I feel like there's better guys out there. This has been a problem for like 9 seasons now, where we've had you can go the whole Mike McCarthy era and talk about how we haven't had strength and conditioning coaches. Like, there's no way that people get this hurt all the time. Like, you can knock it up to luck, but there's got to be something.
I think it's cold, bro.
Nah, man, because there's other teams playing the cold. I hate that damn narrative. Because there's so many teams that play in the cold that do not get hurt this much.
But it depends on where they're practicing.
God.
Are you guys practicing outside or inside?
We do a mixture of both. What do you suggest? Just doing inside all the time?
Yeah. Hey, I'm all about that Chip Kelly science, man. You got to feed your guys right.
Again, I just think there's got to be something wrong.
What if the Pack got Chip Kelly?
Man. No, it ain't going to happen. I'm hoping for Lincoln Riley, honestly.
What if they got Chip Kelly?
Honestly, and this is something I thought of today, and I threw it kind of outside. I threw it on some comment boards and some other stuff that I talk about. But what if Green Bay hires an older coach, but just a coach, just the head coach, and then they hire in, like, say, a Lincoln Riley to be an offensive coordinator and run the offense?
Would he do that?
I don't see why not. Bro, it's the next step up to going into head coaching. And then maybe in a couple years, it looks like, hey, we're ready. Boot the old coach.
Yeah.
Move the offense coordinator up. Because look at the Colts. They did it with Tony Dungy. They went to a Super Bowl doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm just saying it's out there where I don't see why you have to always come in and have a head coach that's one or both. Have a head coach that can oversee everything.
Just manages.
Yeah, just manages
Just head coaches.
Yeah, just actually does a head coach job. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a play caller like a Sean McVay. I want us to go
or Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. And what's funny is Mike has had let go of the play calling a couple seasons ago, then took it back, and then gave it back. It's just, you got to decide what you want. Honestly, I thought if Philbin was doing the calls.
What do you want?
Dude, I just want us to win, but now I want us to lose the rest of the games. I hated, Mark Murphy's press conference today. He said, we have a lot to play for in the last 4 games. Like, what the are you talking about? Like, I was watching it, I had to pause it. I was like, what is he talking about?
Y'all are still in playoffs.
Like, no, bro, we lose the rest of the games. We should not care. Get a higher draft pick, man, because we're going to get like a 30-second pick from the Saints.
Weird. I think I recalled last week, Paul was talking about what happened whenever we were that 8th seed or the 6th seed. What happened?
Yeah, when we lost to Arizona. That's what happens.
Next week, the Packers are at the Falcons, or versus the Falcons at
Who
home.
cares? No, I'm just kidding.
Ibrahim Moises Campbell is that pick. Go ahead and pick him up. He was productive in Indy, or not Indy. He also played in Indy.
We'll probably trade him for a 7th-round pick.
He was also productive at Northwestern. Pick him up.
Hashtag Raider problems. All right, my next game is the 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks in CenturyLink Field, where the Seahawks play football. All right, for the Seahawks, you have Wagner doing Wagner things. And I even have that in my notes several times. 12 for 8, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 2 pass defenses, 1 interception, 1 touchdown, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. Man did it all, folks. If you had him on your lineup, all these people who were like, should I drop Bobby Wagner? This is why you don't drop Bobby Wagner. All right, then you had Katiro. I'm never going to say his name right, man. I give up on it. 10 for 7, 2 tackles for loss. McDougald, 9 for 8. Wagner gets a forced fumble, and he recovers it himself. Thorpe has a muffed punt recovery. The 49ers are stopping the Seahawks on the goal line for 2 plays, but then Baldwin gets a touchdown reception, and that really, honestly, made the Seahawks defense really happy on the sideline. That's the only reason I mentioned it. I don't know why. They just showed it, and they're super excited. Shaq misses an open tackle on Pettis, who scores. Honestly, Dante Pettis is looking like the guy that I saw in the first couple weeks of the season, because he even burned McDougald late on in the season. McDougald. I don't know, man. I hate that guy's name. Not him personally. No offense. Buckner with a late sack in the 4th quarter. I love watching this guy play. He's becoming one of my favorites, but I probably shouldn't use the word favorite. He's becoming one of the guys I like to watch. Wagner gets a pick six near the goal line and runs it back to the opposite side, almost a 100-yard return. And then Reed gets a sack to essentially end the game. Cool thing about the Seahawks is the offensive side. When they got a touchdown, they reenacted. There's a touchdown over Sherman. They reenacted the bobble where it gets flipped back to him, and then Sherman catches it. They redid that. I thought it was hilarious. I don't know how Richard Sherman felt, but it was funny to me.
Nice.
Their next game is going to be versus the Vikings, so I'm rooting for the Seahawks to win because screw the rest of our division. I want them all to lose. And I don't know. For me, I may take a stab at Michael Kendricks. I don't know if he's going to come in and play because I think Castro's been playing pretty good. I know I called him Castro.
Cilantro.
Yeah, Cilantro. Ooh, Cilantro's better than Castro. All right. Calitro, yeah. I think he's a better player than Calitro, but Calitro did go 10 for 7, so he's been playing very well. Again,
being said,
the Vikings are going to spread out the ball, I think.
That being said, I'm secretly becoming a 12 fan. Calitro is playing good situational football. I don't think he's necessarily one of those guys that's going to continue to get that production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with you. When he went down, guys stepped in and played pretty well. The only person who didn't was really Shaquem. That's the only guy who didn't do great stats. For the 49ers side, you have Warner going 8 for 2. Buckner, again, finished top 3. 7 for 3, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. And Smith going 7 for 3. Tart's looking good in coverage so far in the first half. Malcolm gets stuck in the middle. Gets stuck in the middle on a Lockett touchdown. Horrible mismatch. I don't know why he would even be over there.
Probably just being ornery.
Just being ornery, right? And just not doing your jab. Tart closes on a one-on-one tackle. Tart chases down Lockett on the second half kickoff. He chased him down, man. That's pretty cool. 49ers need a middle linebacker that can bring a punch of veracity. Can bring a punch.
I don't get it.
A middle linebacker for 49ers that can bring a punch.
Oh, I get it.
A punch. Yeah. I mean, here's a stretch.
We're still hunting for him.
I should have played it up a little more. I should have played it up a little more. Exum with a pass interference call I did not agree with. You hear Sherman, or you hear Kyle Shanahan over the ref's mic when he's doing a call that he was flagging. You hear him say, "You've got to be effing kidding me," and he got flagged. And when they called it on Sportsline, they were showing him on the sideline. He's just sitting there, arms folded. He looked so much like his dad. Just shaking his head. Dead-faced.
Tell me you saw, we're talking about coach interactions. Tell me you saw Bill Belichick, Adam Thielen. Shut the F up.
We were at work, and my supervisor goes, "Paul, come here." And I was like, "What, man?" So I walked back, and I guess he'd been watching the TV at that time. Yeah. He's like, "What is this?" And then I see it, I'm like, I think he just told him to shut the F up. And so then I went out and I was looking it up on Twitter because I was curious what the hell happened. That was pretty funny. Because Patrick Trump was trying to fake an injury. I thought that was hilarious. I love it. But I like how Thielen backpedaled and tried not to make sure to burn that bridge because he's like, wait, I'm a white wide receiver. I can play for the Patriots. I could join them someday. All right, to finish off, back to the 49ers. Their next game is at home versus the Broncos.
Because the Vikings are getting a Super Bowl win.
Exactly. You got I don't know, I would still go with Smith may be the pickup that you could sneak in there. Warner should be the guy you should have. If he's available, go get him. He's going to be the only tackler really in that middle linebacker spot.
All right. Jet up after the Seattle Seahawks versus the Titans. For the Jets, Adams goes 10 of 11 with a sack. Williamson goes 5 of 9. Lee goes 3 of 8.
Of course.
Jenkins goes 4 of 4 with a sack. Luvu gets a sack. Johnson gets an interception. This is really a game about special teams for the Jets. Blocks and kick returns that kept them in this game.
Roberts have a good game then?
Roberts.
Though that's usually their kick return and punt return guy.
He brought it back to the 40 once on a kick return. Nice. Right after the Titans scored. I think they got a field goal out of it. Classic.
That makes sense.
Luvu, I've never heard of this kid before. He is crushing blockers in the pass rush. This is one of the few bright spots they've had because they've had poor pass rush all season. He was used exclusively on third downs. Johnson reads the pass and jumps a route for a touchdown. Kevin Pierre-Louis, former Chief and a former Seattle Seahawk, ends up blocking the punt, and he recovers it as well. That's about all he can do, and run stop. Definitely don't want him out there in coverage. T. Brooks gets a fumble recovery on a blocked extra point that is kicked right into the back of the right guard. It was kind of ridiculous. Jenkins played the option for the outside linebacker position. Better than anyone I've seen all season. Better than Watt and better than Tobin Smith. I thought it was a tremendous play. I don't see that often, and he doesn't always do it against Malcolm Smith or Marcus Mariota. Adams is playing his best football. He gets a lot of tackles. He's destroying people like we saw from him in college. We kind of talked about how he's kind of showing this trend. I don't know if you see this trend, but Adams is having better second halves of the season than first halves.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
He came on quiet last season, too. He ends up getting a fumble recovery. Roberts was beat multiple times by Tajay Sharp.
Damn.
The Jets had no answer.
Damn.
So they weren't really trying to game plan. Next week, they're at the Bills. No one is going to be my pickup. But if you put a gun to my head, it would be Luvu. I like watching this guy just because I've never heard of him.
I'm surprised Roberts got beat by Tajay Sharp. Usually only people in bars get beat by Tajay Sharp.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, Tajay Sharp got in trouble because he beat up a dude at a bar.
Damn. Better have his money. Who was that player? Oh, it was IK Impala. The dude who wanted $50 from Geno Smith and punched him in the face.
Yep.
Oh, Jets. Anyways, for the Titans, Rashaan Evans goes 6 of 8 and leads the team. Jackson goes 7 of 7. Woodyard goes 1 of 7. Titans are falling out of favor, at least the stat crew. Ryan goes 4 of 6 with a pass breakup. Brown gets a sack, Casey gets a sack, and Butler gets an interception. Evans is getting a lot of snaps this week and converting them to tackles. Next week he should rage on the Jaguars with limited play by Cody Kessler in the game that I watched. I expect Fournette to run a lot and Evans to be that heat-seeking missile. You know those Bama backers. Sharice Finch, never heard of him. Diagnosed the screen and executed. He's a rookie out of Temple. He's getting thrown in the mix on passing downs. Guy to watch looking forward. Butler is all over the place this game. Next week, again, they're against the Jags. Rashaan Evans is my dude.
I just got to say, the reason I was kind of laughing while you're doing your thing is I love the New York media when they talk about the Giants because it just makes me laugh. I was reading an article about Kyle Lauletta and how they want him to get some reps to see what they got in him. And the quote, this is quoted from here. He says, they want to see it because Eli Manning's utter lack of athleticism has been a disastrous combination with New York's leaky line, while Manning's arm strength is on par with a pea shooter. He's like, Ben McAdoo was fired 2 seasons ago, or 2 seasons after 2 seasons as Giants head coach, large part by benching Eli Manning and upsetting the fan base. The Giants are just now realizing McAdoo was right. I love this. Oh, that was one of the greatest articles I've read all day. Oh, I love that. Oh, so much funny satire there. I love it. Pea shooter. Odell's the only one on that team who's thrown 45-yard plus touchdowns.
Really?
Yes, he's thrown 2 of them. Damn. 45 yards plus. Eli Manning, 0. At least we know if there's another Manning that comes up eventually throughout time, we know what's going to happen at the end of his career. Going to have no arm strength. It's going to be all gone. All right, my last game was a Sunday night game. It was the Chargers at the Steelers. Really good game. I really enjoyed watching this game. Yep. I like watching the Chargers and the Steelers. I hope they play again in the playoffs. I would love to see a rematch of this.
Who you got in the playoffs?
Chargers, bro. Chargers are becoming one of my They're becoming a team I really like to watch. They're by far a team I really like. But again, I love Keenan Allen, and I'm sorry, Keenan, I benched you. I feel like now I'm gonna have to start you next week. So let's go for the playoffs, baby.
For the boys.
For the boys. All right, so we'll start with the away team this time. We're gonna start with the Chargers. Brown goes 11 for 6, 1 pass defense. King goes 10 for 9, 2 pass defenses, and a touchdown on a return. And Phillips goes 8 for 4, 1 pass defense. If you had King and you get special teams points, you probably had a pretty good week with him. Chargers are guessing wrong, and they guessed the wrong way twice. On both of Connor's touchdowns, they had the line set well, but they went left every time. I don't know if you saw it, because I think you watched Sunday Night Football as well. Did you notice that at the goal line? Both those plays, they had 5 guys on the line, and then 3 of them would duck off to the left, and he would just run right up the middle. There's only one block. I got mad, and I even put on here, I'm like, put Square in the middle and crash Bosa on the inside.
Right.
Like, loop him in the end, and if you lose on the outside, you lose on the outside. But you got cornerbacks that can crash the box really fast. You got Derwin James, who's a Swiss Army knife back there.
Swiss.
So, I'm just saying. Next time, if I'd have been out there, I'd have been tweeting the Chargers bitch. Been like, get in there.
Swiss Army knife.
Phillips had a really bad pass interference that really kind of put them in a bad position later on. Chargers, again, put 3 guys on the left side. Talked about it. Just crash Bosa, man. Derwin James with a hit. And capitalizing with the exclamation mark. A hit on Connor. And then the next play, he gets an interception. So playing football, you get rewards. I spotted the other Watt brother. I forgot this was another Watt-on-Watt game. We keep forgetting about the third Watt who plays for the Chargers. So he was actually
Derek.
Yeah. Well, I didn't forget about him either, and then I saw him. I was like, oh yeah, Watt versus Watt family tree in the house. If just JJ would have been there, it'd have been perfect.
Oh, I'm sure he was. So was Mom and Pa from Wisconsin.
I doubt JJ was there. He just played.
Do
you think he flew cross country to the Steelers?
I don't know.
Because they were in Texas. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be that far. Man, I don't know, man. It'd be a stretch to get there in time.
I know Nick Bosa was there.
Probably. One doubt he ain't doing nothing. That's probably why they didn't get in the playoffs. They don't have Nick Bosa.
Right.
James lit up Brown, and I love it. He's honestly one of my. I like this guy a lot on the Chargers. He's really fun to watch. Later, James sheds a block and then makes a tackle. Again, like it when a guy can do that. Move your blocker, make the tackle. Brown levels the wide receiver and gets called for a balling too hard foul. That's what I'm going to start calling him when it's actually a good hit.
Ball all day.
And then Bosa actually does pick up a sack in this game. Their next game is going to be at home versus the Bengals. I expect a lot of the same from this defense. I do expect James to make the top 3 next week, but this is just a high tackle game for the Chargers. For the Steelers, you had Fort, F-O-R-T, F-O-R-T.
Oh, hey, let's talk about that. Go ahead.
We said let's talk about it, then you say go ahead.
No, go ahead. What you got on?
Fort goes 12 for 9. Davis goes 9 for 6, 1 pass defense. Edmund goes 7 for 5, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass defense. Edmonds is coming on late, man.
Yeah, he looks good.
Yeah, he's coming on real late. Waited all season for this.
What you got on Fort?
I like watching him play, man. He's a guy who's starting to stick out for me more and more each week. He's like a more athletic version of John Bostic.
Okay.
You don't like him?
Bostic playing?
Yeah, Bostic's still playing.
Okay.
He's out there.
What about Vince Williams?
He's still out there somewhere. I saw him a little bit in this game. I didn't see him a lot.
Him?
Yeah, I think they're rotating.
All right, because they're saying that Fort, I forgot who said it, Al Michaels or somebody. They're like, this guy's very athletic. I was like,
I would not go that far. Very athletic. He's athletic. I think he's better athlete than John Bostic is, but, I mean, we know your love for Bostic.
I get upset whenever people say very athletic, and then you have guys like Ryan Shazier who are very athletic, and then there's a spectrum. And then whenever you start throwing that tag on everybody, then it kind of gets skewed. Kind of like favorites, Paul.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, for sure. All right, you have Edmonds with a sack off a blitz. Again, this is how I kind of imagined him being used. I think we both imagined him being used this way, coming on blitz packages. Yes. Steelers are mad for all the Steelers are mad for a false start throwing touchdown. Guess what? You jumped off sides 3 times on the field goal, so you need to be sneakier about it. That's all you got to do. Be sneakier. Hayward gets a tackle for loss. Fort is laying some nice hits out there. Also in coverage, he's being pretty decent in coverage. Hayden gets a pick, or has a pick, pretty much in his hands, and then he gets leveled by his own safety. Davis takes him out. And then Allen cleans it up. I love his face. Did you watch his face on that touchdown catch?
No.
Because you see those 2 dudes collide, and then he goes, ball! Like, he has that immediate, like, open eye, like, oh shit, the ball's right there. And then he grabs it for the touchdown. It's one of those subtle, like, you see him go, oh! Like, he gets excited, like, the ball's still there.
Yeah.
I love that, man. And And then he does the dances, and he got a couple tutties. I was pretty proud. Edmonds pops Eckler, but it was an incomplete ball. I mean, Edmonds came for that dude's dome piece, and I loved it. Fort is looking good for the second week in a row. The second week in a row I've had the Steelers. Second time I've seen him. Their next game is going to be at the Raiders. I think Edmonds is a sneaky pick. If you can already, I don't know if people have him or not because we've been kind of up and down. I've been up and down on him, especially since I have him. But I think right now he's starting to come on late. I think he may be a playoff pusher. And playing against the Raiders, he's probably going to have some tackle opportunities. That's my last game, my man. I'm out.
All right, I got one more, and that's the Vikings versus the Patriots.
Woo!
For the Vikings, Kendricks goes 8 of 16. Yes, 8 of 16 with the pass breakup and an interception. Harris goes 5 of 7 with a pass breakup. Joseph goes 5 of 7. Barr goes 6 of 6. Hunter goes 4 of 6. There were no sacks for the Vikings. It's just Tom Brady just getting that ball out too fast, you know. Greatest quarterback ever. Anyways, Anthony Harris made a big red zone stand. He's one of the few willing to take down Gronkowski for a tackle, and he's finishing on clutch situations. This is a kid I did not know much about. Did you? Anthony Harris, number 41 for the Vikings. He is the guy that I'm going. Now here's a guy that I'm going to continue to watch in weeks to come. You got Kendricks and Alexander who are everywhere this game. Alexander not hitting the stat sheet, but he's running guys out of bounds, and he continues to chase. Weatherly sliced into the backfield for 2 big tackles for loss. Next week they are at the Seahawks. Anthony Harris is going to be that guy that's going to be in the back, catching those balls and maybe getting a pick 6. This guy's clutch, bro.
I do want to tell you, I talked about Anthony Harris like 2 weeks ago. You kind of shoved me down on that.
Really?
I just want to let you know that. Because I told you, like, since Mike Hughes got hurt and he was in that role, Anthony Harris has come in and played that role really well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not surprised to see him on the stat sheet, you know, to be getting up there.
Yeah.
He, for some reason, for the Vikings, scoring-wise, the nickel corner and the guy they move around makes the most. Trey Waynes was in that role, and then when Mike Hughes came in, Trey Waynes moved up, Mike Hughes stayed there and was balling out until he got destroyed.
Vaughn Diggs.
Yeah. I just want to say, the one catch I saw Treadwell make was a 4th down play. He didn't even get the first down. I love it.
He also got held by this kid named J.C. Jackson. J.C. Jackson, one of those guys that we talked about earlier on in the season, then got covered up, and then he ends up coming back, and he's starting to ball out for the Patriots. For the Patriots, Devin McCourty goes 5 of 8. Jason McCourty goes 5 of 6. We've seen this in the past couple of weeks. Both the McCourty brothers.
Winning.
Kyle Van Noy goes 4 of 5. I was going to make an STD joke, but Hightower goes 2 of 5. Roberts goes 2 of 5. What?
This guy.
Flowers gets a sack and Butler gets a sack. Harmon and Jones both got 1 interception apiece. J.C. Jackson is getting picked on religiously this game. He ends up forcing a pick to Harmon as he juggled it to the ground. Trey Flowers and Lawrence Guy are coming up big on 3rd and 4th down stands. John Simon is getting very little playing time. One of those guys that I expected them to feature. You know they love those white linebackers that are very unathletic. Next week they're at the Dolphins, and there's nobody I want for the Patriots.
I'm about the same way.
All right.
So again, if you got playoff questions, hit us up. You know how to get us. IDP Fantasy Empire on Twitter, and then email us at Gmail. You got a whole bunch of ways. Drop us a review. It's almost the holiday season. I hope your shopping's going well. If you have anyone to shop for, if you're like me and you just don't care, just do whatever you want. It's a good time. I will say though, the Mike McCarthy firing kind of ruined Black Monday for me just a little bit.
Really?
Black Monday is my favorite holiday of the year, and I was kind of hoping for that, man. I was just gonna set it off right, but it's cool. It's whatever. So anyway, get back to us. Hope you all have a really good week. Win your playoffs. Let's win some championships, man. And as always, start building your empire
today.